Alrighty, alrighty. Officer Lopez, so can you tell us a bit about yourself, your academic background, where you went to school, and up to where you are now?
Yeah, not a problem. So as Alberto said, my name is Derrick Lopez. I am a game warden in Harris County here in the Houston area. I have actually been a game warden for about 8 years now. I graduated the academy in 2013. I've been in Harris County for 2 years, and I spent 6 years in Cameron County, South Padre area. That's actually where Albert and I met when he was an intern for our department down there through the law enforcement division. So a little bit about me. I'm originally from the Houston area. I went to Cy Springs High School at Cypher ISD, so on the west side of the county. Graduated high school, went to college at Stephen F. Austin. So as my understanding is, you had somebody from SFA come and talk to you guys. My degree is in forest wildlife management with a minor in botany, which really means that I know a lot about trees. I know a lot about wildlife and a lot about plants. But it's just kind of where this career path has taken me. A lot of game wardens do have criminal justice degrees. And originally when I was going to start the university at SFA, I was going to actually get a major in criminal justice and minor biology. I mean, I was actually going to go to the rival school, Sam Houston. But luckily I went over to SFA. I spoke with the CJ department with the dean there, and he asked me kind of what my background was. And luckily for me, as much as I understand that this is a job in law enforcement, it 100% is, and I enforce rules and regulations of the state of Texas. Had I not been a game warden, my interests were not and are not to be, what most people would consider a city cop. So, HPD, Houston Police Department, Harris County Sheriff's Office, or even DPS. It really wasn't my interest. I don't have anybody with a law enforcement background in my family. Actually, I'm the first law enforcement officer in my extended family as well. But being outdoors, being around wildlife and things like that is what really interests me. And so when I spoke to the dean, he specifically asked me, he was straight with me and said, do you want to be a cop? Do you want to be a lawyer? Is that something that interests you? Because really to become a game warden, it's a numbers game. We have anywhere from 1,600 to 2,000 applicants every year with roughly 30 to 40 openings. So, there's a small percent chance, but it's not impossible. The days of you having to know a supervisor or having to know somebody directly to become a game warden are pretty much out the window. It's a matter of how well you're able to sell yourself and how well you're able to do when you are going through the interview process. So I didn't know anybody, anybody specific, like captain, a major, any supervisors. I was just, a college kid that just graduated. Now, what was good about SFA, and I will definitely try to see as much as I can as well. The university experience really taught me how to live on my own, how to adapt, how to learn. High school for me, I was in sports. I did ag, I did livestock judging, all kinds of different things. But school really, it was just something that I enjoyed, and it wasn't necessarily hard. But when I got to college, I definitely had to learn very quickly that the answers aren't always going to be given to you, and you do have to study in order to succeed. The forestry department is a very intense department. There's a lot that's learning. Almost all their classes require labs. So it really taught me how to adapt and how to be outdoors, which is really what helped out for this job. So I went to SFA, got a couple internships. I spent one summer actually working in California as a park ranger at Yosemite National Park. And then the next summer I worked as an intern for a tree company. And actually when I graduated college, I worked for that tree company full time. They offered me a full-time job with benefits and good pay. And so I took it, which I bring that up because it's one of the major things that when you apply, when we do the background investigations for game wardens, it's one of the most difficult things that we have, because we do have applicants straight out of college that maybe don't have a very diverse background. And it makes it difficult for us because when we do a background check, we will call your friends, we'll call your neighbors, your references, we'll talk to your parents. college professors, past employees, everywhere you live, going back 10 years. And so if you've only gone to, if you were in a handful of clubs in college, and maybe you only worked at one place your entire time, then when we go to make those calls, it makes it pretty difficult for us to be able to say, okay, let me find out a little bit about Albert. Let me find a little bit about, Gladys. Let me find out about these people, because we can only get so much information. But at the end of that background, we actually usually know more about you than maybe your parents or your spouse or your loved ones. It's pretty impressive, but it's part of what we do. So yeah, I worked for the tree company. But when I was in high school, it was actually when I really started learning about what, I never really hunted much, but we did go fishing. And my ag teacher was actually talking about, game wardens and different jobs that we could do with different degrees that we were going off to college with. And so it was always in the back of my mind. And I worked for the tree company. I loved the tree company. And so once I was starting to promote in that line of work, I realized that, hey, I want to give this a try. I'd never applied. I'd started hunting more. I'd started spending more time outdoors. But again, I had never really, I got lucky, and I saw that the application process was open. We usually open up our windows for about 2 months, and it's all online now. So I applied, I got lucky, and I actually got accepted into the academy. Now, the application process, which I believe is going to open up this October. So the minimum requirements are to have a college degree, a bachelor's degree. It doesn't matter what your degree is in, as long as it's a 4-year degree, a bachelor's degree. Like I said, mine's in forest wildlife management. Most people do criminal justice. We've got people with, athletics. One of our majors up at the academy used to be a banker, so he's got an accounting degree. What I always tell people is follow your passion, find what you like. Not only for in case this doesn't work out for you, you won't have spent all that time and money trying to study or do something you don't enjoy. So if I done criminal justice, not enjoyed it, I would have had to be a city cop, which again, there's nothing wrong with being a city cop. It's just, I like to be outdoors. Like today, I spent the morning on a boat. Even though the weather's not too good, I went out for a couple hours, and that was pretty much my day, including this, versus, I've got friends that work for HPD, for Houston Police Department. One of them's been out like 2 years, and they're on that weird swing shift from like 4 a.m. or 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. or 4 to midnight, something like that. And that's what they do. And they deal with all of those people, or the county guys that have to deal with, downtown issues, or with HPD. The flexibility of this job is really what I love, and really is part of the passion of why I enjoy doing this. Plus, had I not enjoyed what I was studying, those probably would have been the longest 4.5 years of my life. It would have been hard. It would have been tough. It would have been like, oh man, now I've got to go learn case law, or now I've got to learn this, or, math, if I was a math major. But no, I loved going to class every day. It was long days. I was learning about something new every day, whether it was wildlife or plants and things like that. So application process, you apply. It's a very thorough application. I saw a little bit on the chat. Yeah, we go back 10 years, but in that initial application process, you will give us your references, where you've lived, whether it's a dorm or at home, apartment complexes. We will get on the more extensive one that you'll turn in during the background. We will actually also get your criminal history. So your criminal history will go back 10 years, or anything. And I'm talking, if you went to U of H and you got a parking ticket from, the UPD, put that in there, because I promise you, when we call UPD, when we call university, we will ask, hey, has this person ever been in trouble? And we're not saying, and I see that you don't necessarily have to, we aren't expecting perfect people. We get it. You were in college. You were studying, you were going out, we want to we want to see what kind of person you are, because that's the person you're going to be for the department. There's only 560 game wardens. We spend a lot of our time working alone. And not only are we representing yourself, but you're representing the state, you're representing the department. So I've got $100,000 truck that's parked outside. It's got with the lights and the radio and the gun that's in there and everything. I am presenting them and they're representing me. It goes hand in hand. And my captain has to have and my partners have to have the accountability for it. Right. So if I'm working at night, I've got to make sure that I'm being safe, or my partners are working at night. I want them to be able to call on me and say, hey, is Derrick somebody that I can count on? I talk to my captain. Regular cops, they may have a meeting, I guess they're briefing before their shift. We don't work a shift, like I said. So I don't have a meeting. My office is at the house, or my truck or outdoors. So there's no brief. Hey, okay. Last night we had issues with break-ins. We had, loose dogs, cattle, whatever. No, it's you go work out, go work. Right now it's a summertime, so water safety is our priority. We're spending anywhere from 60 to 100 hours a month, May, June, July on the water, patrolling the waters, making sure people are being safe, boating safe, fishing, and things like that. During hunting season, we're out during the hunting hours. So deer season, we'll be out early before sunup, and then we may go home, grab a bite to eat for lunch, and then go right back out in the evening just to see if anybody's out, or even rolling around at night for poachers. Same thing during duck season or any of the other seasons that you may have, and they vary. And so that's really the accountability, and saying, hey, yeah, when I was in college, I may have partied too much, or I may have parked in the wrong spot, but I'm owning up to it. Or, what? Yeah, when I was driving from Houston to Dallas, I got a speeding ticket. Put it in there. Because if you don't put it in there and we find it, it's one of the easiest way to get kicked out of the application process. And really all you'll get is a phone call or maybe an email saying, thanks, but no thanks. Try again next year. Maybe the person who did your background will tell you why specifically, but if it's something like that, and that's the easiest way to get kicked out of probably any application process in law enforcement and in general. Just tell us what you did. And even if it is something, whatever it may be, I've had guys that they made some mistakes and they owned up to it. And I said, all right, here's what you've got. What happened? And they tell me. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I get it. You were a college kid, you partied, you were at some party, maybe there was alcohol, so you got a minor in possession of alcohol, right? It happens. Let us know. Because again, if we find it, it's going to be out the door. We'll do a PRT. So the physical readiness test, that's the first thing you'll do. So we used to do a run, a swim, push-ups, sit-ups, things like that. Now it's on a row machine, and it's based off of your height and your weight. And I believe it's 2,000 meters. Once you get out of the academy and into the field, we do the row machine and the other PRT as well. So it's not like, hey, you're just going to make it through for the academy and then you don't have to worry about it. We really try to stay on top of physical fitness after that. So it's something that I take pride in. I think that being physically fit is very important, being able to spend time outdoors. If I have to chase somebody down, be able to get your adrenaline up and then right back down and be able to function at a high level. So you do your PRT. If you pass that, then that's when the background that's when the interview happens. So depending if everybody here is from the Houston area, then more than likely you'll have an interview at one of our Houston offices, either South Houston, North Houston, or Lamarck. For the gentleman that was from the Valley, if that's where you usually stay and live, we've got an office down there in Brownsville that we actually got a lot of applicants from that area because we don't have too many offices. So sometimes we do have people go to different areas, because College Station is going to be our next closest office from here. And then probably like Austin, Dallas, Lufkin in East Texas, and then Corpus. So you'll do the interview usually in front of one supervisor and then usually two field wardens. We'll ask you a series of questions. We don't post those questions online, but they're pretty simple. We ask very direct questions with a very direct answer. I've actually had the honor of being on the interview board for the applicants that have come through. So yeah, so we do that. There's a couple of people. We'll ask you quick questions. Business casual. You'd be surprised how many people show up in blue jeans. Please don't ever show up to any type of interview in blue jeans. Even if you're gonna go, like when I went to go work for the tree company, I knew I was gonna work outdoors. I showed up in business casual, so slacks and at least a button-up shirt. Don't have to be a tie, not a jacket, but just my thought process and even in work is, if you look good, you feel good, you're gonna present yourself well. So you only get one chance for a first impression, and yeah, we had a t-shirt and blue jean roll in one time, and we're just like, okay. Yeah, so after that, if you make it past that section, it's the background investigation, and that's the one where we really start digging deep. So game wardens will get an individual, and that's when we look through the bank statements. We look through all of their work history. We start making those phone calls. So I believe we either get 3 or 4 references from y'all, and then from the people that we talk to, we then get another 3 or 4 references. So we're actually talking to friends of friends. We'll talk to your spouse's parents, girlfriend, boyfriend's parents, friends. We start getting really into that background and seeing what type of person. Not because we think you're bad, but it's like, yeah, oh yeah, I hung out with this guy once. Seemed pretty relaxed. Something like that. We sometimes come across some weird stuff, digging into some people's backgrounds. But for the most part, if we made it into the background, you're pretty good applicant. And then the bank statement, I believe is really just to make sure like you don't have severe debt. And I'm not talking about college, because I know I came out of college in some pretty big debt as well. But I'm talking, gambling problems, weird things where you've got money coming and going, and there's really no explanation why you've got a couple grand coming and going from your bank account every month. I'll say, hey, where's this coming from? And usually it's like, oh yeah, no, I've got my parents give me some money. Okay, cool. From the background, then so we'll turn in all of those packets. That goes to the supervisor, usually the captain and the regional major. They'll look over all of those, and then they turn it over to the academy, and the academy gets the big stack, and then they're the ones who make the final decision. So it really doesn't come down to me, and each of one of those steps takes anywhere from 2 to 3 months. So like if we're doing the applications right now, or if we open them up in October, I would probably say the row would take place probably in December or in January, right after everybody's had all their Thanksgiving and December dinner. Make sure you try to stay in shape a little bit, and that applies to me too. And then the interviews usually around March, spring break area, backgrounds in the summer, and we usually try to knock all of that out before our busy season starts in August for dove season. So yeah, it is a very long process, 8 to 9 months. If you've got a prior employer like I did when I applied, I tell your employer, especially because we're going to call them, we're going to say, hey, are they a good employee? What do they do? How do they do? And what I would say for that important thing is, and I talked about it a little bit, there's nothing wrong with, let's say if you've worked at HEB for the last 8 years, from when you were 16 to when you were 24. But I'll ask the manager and be like, hey, were they ever offered a position to promote? Were they ever offered a leadership position? Or were they always happy, pushing carts or being, the person does the checkout? If you said, hey, do you want to work late tonight? You really willing to work the weekend? Were they that person that said yes? Because again, I work almost every weekend. I work pretty much every holiday. It's part of what we are busy, because that's when people are out hunting and fishing. 4th of July is one of the busiest weekends we have, besides probably opening weekend for dove season and deer season. So I'm going to be on the water starting Friday in 2 days. patrolling, making sure people are being safe, water safety and things like that. And it's just being able to go up and show, and Albert knows, he worked the summer as an intern with us. It's not uncommon for, Friday, the weather may throw a kink in our day, but let's say this was a good, nice 4th of July weekend. We may get on the water at noon. We may not get off the water till midnight. And that doesn't include putting the boats away, cleaning the boats. If we come across a drunk, we get a BWI, boating while intoxicated, taking them down to downtown to take them to jail and process them. That may be another 2-3 hour process. We may not get home till 3-4 in the morning. You wake up the next morning, grab a quick bite, off to do it again the next day. Luckily, it's not every day. It's not every weekend like that. We do have, regular 40-hour work weeks, but we pretty much make our own schedule.
So Derrick,
yes.
My question for you. So, what are kind of, and you spoke, about great things, right? What you did in high school, how you found out kind of about being a game warden, and got introduced to you and things like that, and the application cycle. So, having worked in Cameron County and being now in Harris County, how does that compare? Like being in different counties, or maybe someone who's in West Texas. So there's a lot of things, and it could look a lot different, right, for every single person.
Yeah, so it looks very different. Texas is a huge state. If you've never driven across or been over to, even from Houston to Dallas, that's 4 hours. In some parts of the country, you've crossed like 4 states. I actually just got back from vacation going up to Maine. In 4 hours, we crossed, Vermont, Delaware, New York, and we were through Rhode Island, or even going into the Midwest. You've got the arid West in El Paso. You've got the Panhandle, which is kind of arid, but they get snow and it's cold weather. As much as I love East Texas, you disappear into the Pine Curtain. It's a different group of folks over there. The Gulf Coast, we're dealing with, commercial fishing, recreational fishing, things like that. And then down in the valley where I was. So what I enjoyed about being down south was that work was busy. It was always work. There was always somebody fishing. Those people loved to fish on the coast. Yes, very, very different cultures everywhere. And even though, obviously I'm Hispanic, I'm from the Houston area, being down with the culture that is down south, it's different. And you have to be able to adapt. The last thing we definitely ever want to do as a law enforcement officer, it doesn't matter if you're down southeast Texas or wherever, is seem like you're talking down to somebody when you're talking down, talking to them about violations or what you're doing. Don't use big words. It doesn't get anybody anywhere, regardless of whether it's English or Spanish. Keep it simple. I try to stay away from police jargon. I've caught myself saying, say Houston Police Department instead of HPD, HCSO, that's Harris County Sheriff's Office, DPS, or BWI. A lot of people hear that and like, what is that? Boating while intoxicated. But yeah, down south, people love to fish. And so I could go out at any hour, any day, and somebody was going to be fishing. Usually coastal fishing, on the bank fishing, or I could go offshore. We do a lot of commercial fishing. That was a lot of commercial shrimping. We have the state waters go from the coast to 9 miles. So we get our boats and we go out 9 miles. From 9 to 200, it's federal waters. We actually have jurisdictional powers in federal waters as well. So that's generally during red snapper season. It's a very important fish recreationally, and actually the season is open up right now, usually from June until about July. Shrimp season's closed right now. It usually closes from end of May until until mid-July. And so that's where I would do my work. I would do commercial fish house checks. So if you ever go down to Seabrook and go to those and buy directly from some of these boats, or even from the big fish houses, they're selling large amounts of snapper or trout, shark, shrimp, all of that stuff, oysters. So that's what we would do down south. Here in the city in Harris County, Harris County is what I believe the 7th largest county with 6 million people, 6 to 7 million people in the metro area. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of folks, and it's a big, big area. You've got from Katy to Seabrook, Tuscasita, Crosby area in the Northeast, Kingwood up north, and then even down to Pearland. Yeah, it's very large. And so we get calls depending on what time of the year. So right now that we just got out of spring, our phones have been blowing up with baby animals, deer, baby deer, trapping animals. And we have to tell the people that, yes, that's important, but it's not necessarily a top priority of what we do as game wardens. It's mainly hunting and fishing and law enforcement. And it's normal for a baby bird to be out of its nest in March or April. They're going to be fine. And a baby deer, leave the baby deer alone. Mama will come back, I promise. You know, or we get the calls of, hey, there's a raccoon in my attic. Can you come pick it up? No, that's not what we do. Call a private trapper, call animal control. But there are instances where we'll get a call from like maybe a mangy coyote, a sick coyote, or something like that, and we'll have to go dispatch it. Or if somebody hits a deer that is injured, a lot of these other departments, it's very difficult for them to discharge a firearm without having to fill out a lot of paperwork. I have a suppressed firearm in my truck that I keep specifically for deer so that it's not loud, it's humane, and it's quick, and I can either load it up and go and donate some of that meat if I can, or we'll move it over to the side and get it out of the roadway. So, and that's also a little bit of what's different between what we do versus what, you know, city guys do. Now, we also have poaching in Harris County. We had an issue in Memorial Park a couple of years ago where somebody was out there bow hunting. We had issues with some hunting in the Kingwood area. We've got a neighborhood where we've got some people that are going around with crossbows shooting deer. You know, but we'll also get calls down in Seabrook with fishermen that are poaching fish. Poaching in general just means taking the animal without permission, or too many, too small. And it's at all hours. You know, I'm on call 24/7. In Harris County, I do have, because we have 8 game wardens here, I have 2 designated days off. But let's say on my day off, I get a call of an emergency that's going on, whether it is, you know, let's say there's another flood that's coming, or a storm, you know, that we do storm response. When Harvey kicked through Houston, there was close to 200-300 game wardens in Harris County, in the metro area and surrounding areas, responding everywhere from Rockport up to Harris County and even up over to Orange. It doesn't matter if I just got done working 8 hours. If I'm sitting down at dinner and somebody calls, say, hey, you know, can I just hit a deer, or I've got a trespasser on my property, can you come out? Now, again, there's 8 of us, so we will spread the wealth. You know, if it's a call out east, I've got a partner who lives pretty close to Crosby. You know, I'll say, hey, do you mind taking this call? If you get anything out west, I'll handle it. Or like right now, I'm on the east side of the county, so I let a couple of my partners know, hey, I'm over on the east side. If you get something over here, let me know, and I can help out. And everybody works a little bit differently. That's the best part. You know, I work regular hours. I work regular hours during the week, but on the weekends, I like to work in the evenings. We've got some guys that love working at night. They won't even start their day till like 6-7 p.m. They're just night owls. They love to work all night. And so I know in my mind that I can count on my partners to be out, you know. So if I get a call, you know, that there's an alligator where it's not supposed to be, you know, we've gotten some weird alligator calls because of all the rain. You know, I'll say, hey, are you out tonight? Or I'll shoot them a text message. Hey, are you out working this evening? Yeah, what do you got? And so vice versa. You know, if I know they're sleeping, they'll call me and say, hey, I've got a call, you know, can you handle it? So Houston is very diverse. You have to work a little bit more to find some violations, but they are out there. We patrol the water, so we'll be out on, you know, Galveston Channel. We'll be out in Clear Lake. We'll be out in the Kemah Channel. We'll be on, my mind's going blank, the river, up near Cypress. We've got, I don't know why my mind's going. The Sand Jack. So we patrol the Sand Jack, and then even Lake Houston. Even though technically Lake Houston is in the city limits, Houston Police Department and us, we both patrol it. So technically all of the public waters in Texas are operated and run by Parks and Wildlife. We are in charge of all of those waterways. So anytime there's an accident, we're the ones that you contact. We've got forms that you fill out. I'm actually also a boat accident investigator. We have about 20 in the state, but I'm one of 4 lead investigators. We have some 3D scanners that we can use. So any major accidents or high profile accidents, I may also get called out to, and that has gotten me to a bunch of different parts of the state as well. So that keeps me busy. So it is different. City cop calls, and I've heard them. Maybe, hey, we've got homeless people issues, or we've got break-ins, we've got, an alarm going off at a business at 2 a.m. I don't have to deal with those in general. DPS highway patrol, they sit on their section of highway and they look for violations, and they look to see what's going on, and they write people, driving violations. For me, it's different because I have jurisdiction throughout the state, not just in the county. So technically HPD or Houston Police Department can't leave the city of Houston. Harris County can't leave Harris County. I can go throughout the state plus out into the water, which gives us some flexibility when some other departments need some more help, or, especially in the small counties. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, it may just be a game warden and a sheriff, and that's all. So we'll help them out. They help us out, and we just work hand in hand. Luckily for me, I've always had lots of partners in pretty big cities. Now, I will say something that was really crazy last week was I was on my way out to patrol for a boat race that was going on Clear Lake. And I saw somebody driving the wrong way down I-10. I was the first officer. I initiated the pursuit. I chased him down. He ended up crashing. Luckily, nobody was injured or killed, and I arrested the individual. So right there, we've got many violations, but I was the first one. I called it out on the radio. Backwards on I-10. They were actually on the frontage. They were in the HOV, but on the shoulder. And so we were able to, when they exited, it was a perfect best case scenario. They exited. I was able to exit, get behind them, and then arrest them, and nobody was injured or killed. But you just never know. And in Harris County, the rules change. I've always got to stay ready to see, what is going on, what's going on in the county. I constantly am listening to the radio to see, we're first responders. I've got first aid equipment in my truck as well. I've got a rifle that I carry for somebody if there was, heaven forbid, an active shooter. I go to lots of trainings for those on my own, not only through the department, but on my own, just because I feel those things are important. So, whether it's a mall, a school, everything that's going on in the world, we've got to stay ready. Some people see us as peace officers, some of them don't. And for better or for worse. So, it's just what makes this job work different for me. Now on day to day, that was a crazy day. Today I got to go out on the boat. Most weekends we go out on the boat. In the wintertime, I get paid to explore. So if I'm looking for poachers, I just kind of put in my head of where would a poacher be? What would they be doing? That little brushy area. Does that look like an area where maybe deer could be? And then I'm like, okay, yeah, I probably could. So I'll go park, and then I'll just start walking, and I'll hike. So I'm getting paid to hike. So I grab my backpack with my water and some snacks, and I go, and I have found blinds. I've found hunters, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Some of them had permission, some of them haven't. So it depends. In general, poachers, they're gonna operate individually. It'll be one guy, usually in a tree stand. The smart ones don't set up a whole lot of equipment, or if they've been poaching in that area for a long time, then you can go ahead and just, they feel comfortable, and so they'll set up blinds. I've found blinds, food plots, where they've cleared a big area. They'll put a feeder out, cameras, trail cameras. I'm talking all kinds of things. Where some of these guys are just taking advantage of the situation, and they may just slip in at one time and out. We may have people that call us. We have an Operation Game Thief, which is a 24/7 number that is available to everybody. It's a 1-800-792-GAME, which is 4263. Because there's a lot of y'all and only a handful of us. So yeah, sometimes people do have like poaching deep fish. And actually, we came across a fish poacher that was selling fish. That was really popular down south, especially during certain times of the year. Well, they will harvest a lot of fish and then they'll sell them. So I've actually done online stings as well. I do overt, not covert, so I don't do any undercover stuff. It's all up in the open. I'll communicate with people. It's actually what has kept me up to date with a lot of the apps these days. You know, OfferUp, eBay, WhatsApp, Facebook Market, Snapchat, Instagram. There's anywhere you can get online, somebody's going to try to sell something. And so I'll set up a buy and I'll say, okay, I've met people to buy snakes, fish, parts of fish, filleted fish, deer sausage. None of those things you can sell without a license. So I show up, ask them if they have licenses. You know, if they don't, we deal with it, we handle it, we seize the items, and then I usually donate it back to the public. I haven't had an issue with poachers or people not complying, because I know I always try to keep in the back of my mind that I'm working by myself. I want to be smart about what I'm doing. My backup, even though I'm in the city, they may not know where I'm at, right? If I'm patrolling the Sand Jack on the water, that has a lot of little fingers. It's got a lot of little places. And that's a pretty, I don't want to say it's a sketchy part of town, but you definitely can find some problems if you go out looking for them. I've got to keep in mind that even if I find a violation, I've got to weigh my problem and say, okay, is it worth it right now? Is it worth, you know, trying to hook this guy up, put him on my boat, go back, or even go on land? You know, if I'm patrolling on land by myself, you know, or even, you know, down south, we used to go on a bunch of ranches. You may be 4 or 5 ranches in, going through gates. You may know exactly how you got there and how to get out. But if you call a county deputy or even another game warden and say, hey, I'm on so-and-so's ranch, they may have no idea where you are. So you just have to weigh it out and say, okay, is this something that I want to risk? Or is it something like, you know what? Hey, I'm going to walk away from this. I have all their information and I'm going to come back with backup. I have shown up with where an officer needed some backup, but that was just a traffic stop on the road. So we just have to communicate and let people know.
So
yep.
So you guys obviously do a lot of things, right? I believe the game warden is called the Swiss Army knife of law enforcement and things like that. What I heard. Because yeah, it's just a little bit of everything, right? You do a little bit of everything, you know, water rescue, you know, you're out there during hunting season, you can conduct, you know, traffic stops, do all those kinds of things. But why is the conservation of our natural resources important?
So yeah, man, every day, everywhere across the country, the numbers for hunting and fishing is going down. It just is what it is. And so I go out, we do a lot of outreach. So not only like for y'all to say, hey, I want to be a game warden, I go out and do outreach programs in the city, in the county, parades, school events, functions, handing out, you know, pencils, stickers. It's amazing how far a sticker for a kid will go, knowing that 1, the cop was nice, and 2, the game warden was nice. And maybe that will interest them in being, you know, in hunting and fishing. Yeah, if we go down, you know, I've been to different places in the world where, you know, the numbers of the hunting ability or the fishing, what is the resources that are available are almost obsolete. One of the major issues why we had Mexican lanchas coming up from Mexico into U.S. waters was because they depleted almost all of their fish. So they would go out and risk their lives on a daily basis to try to catch fish in state waters in the United States, to then take them back to Mexico to import them into the U.S. to sell them to us. You know, once these birds are, you know, these deer, these animals are gone, they're gone. You know, it's almost impossible to bring them back, even though science is moving forward very quickly. You know, once some of these animals are gone, we'll never get them back. And it was evident, and our department is constantly paying attention. So I enforce the regulations, and I tell people I don't make up the rules, I just enforce them. We have much smarter and better people than me. So we have coastal fisheries and inland fisheries. Those are people dedicated specifically for the numbers, and our biologists. So they go out and they survey white-tailed deer. They go out and survey the pronghorn sheep or the desert bighorn sheep, which are very limited in numbers, but we still provide a hunting opportunity for those. With the freeze, it just came through. You know, we had a lot of spotted sea trout that were cold stunned pretty much from Corpus south. And so they did a 3-month moratorium where they went from, instead of being able to catch 5 trout, it's now 3. And I think the numbers, I think it's going to end at the end of this month. So probably today, maybe extend it. It went from 5 trout to 3. And then it went from, instead of 15 to 25 inches, I think it was 16 to 24 inches, I believe. And the great thing about that is I don't have to know exactly what the number is. We have a great app called Outdoor Annual that downloads. It's free for the public. I use it as well. It has all of our hunting and fishing regulations, plus some water safety stuff. Pretty much everything that we have in our book or any question you can have, you can find on that app. So yeah, so we change the numbers sometimes a little bit. Red drum numbers, I think used to be, or the snook used to be, you could keep 2. We dropped it down to 1. Wood ducks, used to be able to shoot 3 wood ducks. And I think we're down to 2 wood ducks now. Just we're waiting for those numbers to come back up. And once the numbers come back, and that's what we try to tell people, don't think we want to keep them all for ourselves. I get no benefit in there being more game animals out there. You know, I don't know where the secret spot is so that I can shoot more wood ducks or white-tailed deer or anything like that. We want to offer that opportunity back to you guys. So when the numbers come stable again, you know, we'll raise those numbers. We did it with the pintail a couple years ago. We went from 2 pintails, which is a duck, to 1, and now we just bumped it back up to 2 as well. So yeah, natural resources, being able to afford that opportunity, not only for this generation, but for many generations to come, to hunt and fish. If there's people here in the class that have never hunted before, you can apply to do some hunts online through our department, through Parks and Wildlife. I think it's like a $3 application, $3 or $5 application. If you get selected, that's when you pay. You don't have to pay anything up front. It's not super expensive, especially if you're a resident from Texas. All you need is a $25 hunting license. And you can shoot white-tailed deer. You can hunt turkeys, mule deers. And if you get selected for one of these hunts, you know, then you're allowed to go out and go hunt. Yeah, again, non-compliance, it's all about how you sell yourself. You'd be surprised how many tickets I've written and had somebody tell me thank you. I try to be nice. I try to be courteous. I try to give people the respect that they give me. Now, it's not to say that I've never had to raise my voice, yell at somebody, get them to comply, or put them in handcuffs. You have stubborn people. Usually when the handcuffs come out, people get real wide-eyed and start listening to you really quickly. You know, once they realize that there's consequences for them not wanting to do, or them thinking they're above the law, you know, then they start listening quite a bit. I try to tell them, you know, I explain to them, yes, you may be over the limit on fish. And I also try to see, okay, how, you know, if anybody has any kids or ever talked to a child that's broken a rule or done something on purpose, you can see, right? So I'll ask somebody that, you know, if they're fishing, I'll say, hey, what did you measure these fish with? Because I may look at the fish and already be able to tell that it's too small. And they'll say, oh, well, if they have no measuring device, then I'm like, okay, there's some negligence in there. Why don't they have a measuring device? Or it's like, oh, well, I know it's that big. If they've got a measuring device, a check stick, or even a ruler, then I'm saying, okay, you made a conscious decision to break the law. Or is it one fish? Is it 1 or 2 inches off? Or are you 5 fish over the limit and half of those are undersized? Yeah, then we're gonna have some talking, and you're gonna probably have to see the judge. Same thing with water safety. You know, there's some safety equipment that you're required to have: a whistle, life jackets for everybody on board, a throwable fire extinguisher, a kill switch, registration. You know, a whistle, not having a whistle on board, it's not the end of the world. Plus that ticket's the same as any other. So instead of a $150 ticket for a $2 whistle, I may say, hey, you know what? Here's a written warning. That way my boss knows I'm working, and go get your whistle. And it's been documented. But if I see a child without a life jacket, you're probably going to get a ticket every single time. Because that I've seen it too many times. We hear about it, especially in our line of work, way too often of children going overboard or falling into the water and slipping and dying and drowning because of negligence from a parent, from an adult. So yeah, you're probably going to get a ticket on there. Yep, go ahead.
So knowing that being a game warden is a very competitive career to get into and things like that, I know you did some internships while you were in college. What are some other things that you would recommend for someone to do? Maybe community service or things like that. What are some things that you did?
Yeah, absolutely. Community service. You know, my mom hardly ever knew what the heck I was doing because I was volunteering anywhere and everywhere there was somewhere to go. Being out and getting out and talking to different people is the best thing. That's how you start networking. That's how you start to communicate. Communication especially is one of the hardest things, one of the most difficult things for us to come across. I spend 80% of my time just talking to people, conversing. That's the major thing that's different between, you know, if you get pulled over by a cop, you've already broken the law, right? You're already thinking in your mind, oh man, how did I mess up? Are they going to get it? Am I going to get a ticket? How am I going to pay this? Am I going to do, you know, community service or deferred adjudication? With me, you know, just because you meet a game warden, I'm just checking for compliance. So if you've got your fishing license or your hunting license, the contact can be 30 seconds. Now, if you've got questions, hey, you know, I'm curious about this, that, and the other, I'll sit there and talk with you. I'll shoot the breeze with you for as long as you want, unless I'm busy and I'm like, look, great. It's been great chatting. Give me a call, shoot me a text message. Being able to communicate and to talk with people, and heck, I'll do that when I'm writing somebody a ticket, just making small talk, or just being able to say, notice small things, being aware. And that's really, yeah, to communicate and notice on what's going on. That's the biggest thing. Get out there, try to do different things that interest you. And, you know, we have internships with our department. We have lots of departments. So we have law enforcement with his game wardens, state parks, which is our state parks. We have PPOs as well, and just regular state parks, camping, fishing, things like that. Coastal fisheries and inland fisheries, which they manage the fish. We do a breeding program for fish, and they actually release them as well. And then headquarters and different things like that. So if being in law enforcement isn't exactly what you want to do, yeah, PPO is a park peace officer. So they're like game wardens, except they mainly focus on state parks. So we actually have some PPOs here at Sheldon State Park on the north side of the county. But we've got state parks throughout the state. So there's really an opportunity to go and be in volunteer or go and work with any of those. Getting your foot into the doors is probably the hardest part of this department.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you. So now our last question from my part, students, we're going to go on to your questions right now. So what is your favorite memory of your career as a game warden?
Man, I've got a couple, and that's what makes this job so interesting. So my most memorable memory is we got a call at like 2 a.m. 2 guys went overboard. They had life jackets, and in my mind, I was looking for water recovery. The weather was terrible. Me and my partner went out there, and we actually found them. An hour later, they had already been in the water like 3-4 hours, and we were able to recover them alive, and they were fine. We threw them on our boat and brought them back on bank, and they were super grateful. You know, other memories I've had is some outreach stuff that I've done with at schools. Down south, I used to go to a high school every single year. And actually, I used to do one at another elementary, and the teachers and the students started recognizing me. And then you go out and work, and there was some kids that were fishing, like, hey, you know, Mr. Lopez, I remember you. I'm like, I have no idea who this is, because, you know, I meet hundreds of people every day. I'm like, oh yeah, no, you came to my school, you brought, you know, the alligator head and the deer head, and you know, I really liked it. And, you know, they just light up, and then the parents get excited about it too. And I'm like, okay, you connected with that child a little bit. You know, those are just some of the small ones. We just cover so much that, you know, what's exciting for me may not be exciting for other people. And we all adapt differently as game wardens. We all have different things, passions that we have, you know, so yeah.
No, definitely. You guys are making a difference, right? And doing all those things. I wanted to ask a question on you mentioned that you investigate boat crashes and things like that. And I know there's other small units like divers and things like that. What is that kind of, because you're a game warden already, these guys are all game wardens. What does it look like to kind of specialize in that area?
Yep. So for us, except for the boat theft team, we have a couple full-time boat theft investigators. And mainly that's like tax evasion and people stealing boats and trying to resell them, changing numbers. For me, I'm just a plain game warden. I'm a game warden first. But I'll get calls in the summertime and say, hey, we just had a major accident. You prepared. So I've done extensive extra training. I'm actually certified through NASBLA. I'm not only certified through them, but I'm an instructor. In 2 weeks, I'm actually going to be in South Dakota teaching a class to other game wardens and Marine officers across the country. Boat accident investigation is something that I'm passionate about because there's a lot of unknowns. Boat accidents are completely different than car accidents. There's no skid marks. If we're lucky, people survive, but a lot of the time we don't have any survivors, so we either drown. And so it's just a giant puzzle. But we've got the canine handlers are full time. We have, I believe we're up to 10 canine handlers. They are tracking dogs and narcotics, and some of them are, resources. So those dogs are actually trained to track down deer or ducks and fish and those types of things. We have a dive team. They are certified. Now, I did see you don't have to come into it scuba certified. If you're more comfortable with it, I definitely would. It's not for me. I don't like dark, deep, murky waters. Almost all waters in the state of Texas are very little visibility. That's not for me. And a lot of what they do is doing drowning recoveries. And so they're deep water certified, they're regular certification. They go through a lot of retraining throughout the year. I have the utmost respect for them, but it's just definitely not something I want to do. Let's see, what else do we have? We've got a scout team and a search and rescue team. A scout team does like the high risk warrants if we ever have to serve any of those. And then the search and rescue, those were the guys. Again, those guys are nuts. Those are the ones that hang out of the helicopters during Harvey, they were working hand in hand with DPS and the Coast Guard, helping pick people off, picking up people off of rooftops during Harvey, during some swiftwater training. So we're all swiftwater trained, but they have a little bit more training. So while we were out picking people up off of floodwaters, they were in boats running around, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, there's different avenues, and depending on the type of the year, we're coming into hurricane season. Our boats are up and ready. We've got airboats. We try to stay ready, not only for the state of Texas, but we have an agreement with all the other coastal counties or all the coastal states to be prepared if something happens. So when Katrina hit, we sent 300 game wardens to Louisiana. When Maria hit Florida a couple of years ago, we sent about 100 game wardens over there. So if anybody needs us, if they're willing to make the phone call, we try to go and show up.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So again, you guys work teamwork within yourselves, right? Even within your own county, but if someone else needs a helping hand, you guys are there. And I'll ask you this last question. So let's say we have students that after today, they're like, wow, being a game warden sounds super cool. You get to do a bunch of cool things, and they just think it's for them, but they didn't grow up hunting, they didn't grow up fishing or doing anything like that. What would you recommend? Is that something that they really look at in the background, like really into depth, that needs to be in there, or can they start?
No. It's never too late. I definitely, y'all go out and go hunting. Fishing is the easiest thing. That's why there's so many people that fish. Going to Academy, Walmart, go getting a fishing rod, a couple hooks, some worms, and just starting to learn to fish. There's a lot of resources out there. I had to learn the proper way of how to tie a fish hook onto a fishing pole when I started doing this, because I would just tie a bunch of knots and just hope that it was on there. But I got better. Watching stuff online, reaching out to us, or there's a lot of resources for first-time hunters and fishermen. As a fellow hunter and fisherman, I'm always interested and always willing to go reach out to somebody and say, hey, I get more excitement when somebody shoots like their first deer or their first duck or catches their first fish than anything that I would ever do, because it's just the excitement you get as, seeing somebody's eyes light up. Man, I've seen grown men start to break down, cry because they shot a big old buck that we were able to put on for, as an opportunity for them to hunt. Those online hunts that we have through our department, and actually some of them are also through U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Sign up for those. If it turns out like you aren't familiar with it at all, reach out to one of us or reach out to the local, wherever that park is or wherever that entity is. And be like, look, I got this drawn hunt, but I don't know anything about hunting. If you think you know anybody who hunts and fish, go out and reach out to them. There's a lot of different programs, Ducks Unlimited, Texas Trophy Hunters, lots of Dallas Safari Club, Houston Safari Club, all of those guys and girls are very interested in reaching out and getting somebody into the field. And if you don't know how to do it, it's not going to knock you out from being a game warden if this is something that you want to do. We have ride-alongs that right now it's a little busy, but we may be able to set that up. You can call our Houston office. So we had ride-alongs and then it went away. We're trying to bring them back in. It's definitely something that you can call and do. And once we start that program up again, you'll probably go out on the water. You'll see kind of what we do, how we interact. The biggest thing, if you want to see what we do on a day-to-day, we have a TV show. It's called Outdoor Annual, or it's called Lone Star Law. It's on Animal Planet. You can stream it online, and it has a lot of stuff of what we do. It shows a lot of different facets and outlets of what our department does. As game wardens, if you have any other issues or any other questions about the other departments, you call them up. We're a big program within different small programs within a big program. Just call and reach out. It's a Lone Star Law.
Lone Star Law on Animal Planet. So those are great things, right? Once that ride along program comes up, you guys can, start calling your local office or local game wardens and ask to do that. YouTube's always a good resource. And yep. I think even clips of Lone Star Law are on there.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, and our Facebook page, we have a social media. We have a Facebook and an Instagram, both for Texas Parks and Wildlife and for Texas Game Wardens. I'm almost positive all these guys, they also have, Coastal Fisheries, Inland Fisheries has their own page, hashtag handles and all those other things. So yeah, follow our show. If you've got questions, you're always welcome to ask me, ask another game warden. If you Google any county in the state of Texas and just Google like Harris County Game Warden, Waller County Game Warden, all of our numbers are public. This phone is always on. Shoot me a text message, send a game warden a message. If you're traveling out of state, or across the state, give us a call and we'll to answer any questions that you've got.
Definitely. Thank you.
But if you don't leave me a message, we're not going to call you back. I get 100 calls a day. Leave a message. Say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I just got a quick question, or shoot us a text message. That's the easiest way to work it out.
There we go. And I could drop your number down in the chat. I'm also going to be sharing your email with the students that have further questions. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, that's closing off our students. We do have announcements, so stick around. Can we give Officer Lopez a reaction and thank him for being here today? I know that one of our graduating seniors had to leave, but he said, glad I was able to join. If you could tell him, thank you for me. It was an amazing interview with Derrick. So he definitely enjoyed it. We see the thank yous dropping in there.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, if you come across a weird tiger or something, give us a call. You never know what you're going to come across. I may not handle it myself, but we'll start making phone calls and getting those things handled for you guys.
Figure it out. All righty. Thank you so much. We'll let you get back to what you have going on today, and hopefully we could have you again sometime in the near future.
Yeah, anytime. You guys take care and good luck.
All righty. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. All right, guys. Stick around, guys.